folks, I'm back to finish up a little bit more of this Section Z game, which is wonderful and great, and there's nothing ever should be said wrong about it. And okay, now I'm going to go ahead and say that there's plenty to be said. That I mentioned it in the first video that the game itself, I thought as a kid that I just had some nightmares with this pain in the ass game, and the first video didn't really show that. I mean, I played it and I was like, maybe I'm thinking something else. After playing it for this portion of the video, you will come to recognize exactly why my 8-year-old self probably had a conniption with this particular title. And I do apologize if the game is a little, if the video is, it's a little jerky, I guess. And I don't know if it's something specific to me recording it in this wonderful 100-degree heat or not. I think my computer's been having a little bit of a fit with the temperature rising, so I apologize if it's a little too jerky. But I bared with it, so can you for at least a little bit. None of these particular levels are all too terribly difficult until we reach a particular zone section that is, I think, was part of the notorious hatred I had for this game. The crash ball here is actually one of the little optional weapons that comes up. It's sort of like the missile. You hit the A and B at the same time to pop it up, except it does more constant damage, and I'll show that off a little bit later on as well. Usually you only use the special items for the boss type objects. I don't know what they're called, station protector things. You've seen them before, you'll see them again in this video. Nothing too terribly important throughout this section, although my original assessment that if you die and lose all your power-ups and such, at first I thought that wasn't too big a deal until I got to, you'll see the section of note here later on. It actually does kind of, it really makes a portion of the level impossible to get through without any real damage. I mean, I assumed it was supposed to be kind of a difficult roadblock, but they really didn't design it very well. And I'll go ahead and throw out the keywords Battletoads Speeder Tunnel. It pretty much plays into that same sort of idea, which, as you can see, really should work well with this particular game, don't you think? These little volcano things I think are new. If I recall, I don't think I remember them in the first video, but they're not really any difficulty. You can actually kind of just hang out at the top of the screen and pretty much avoid all the ones shooting on the bottom while taking out the ones on the top. I just kind of kill them. Oh yeah, forgot about that. There's the grinding your head against the ceiling death. I thought I'd just leave that in there. I did take the opportunity to make a save state or two in here, just kind of leave myself checkpoints. Again, I will kind of go through why I did that, and after you see some of the stupidity in this game, you'll probably understand why I did it. But yeah, here I show up kind of, you just really don't need to hang out near the bottom of the screen for this entire area. Some of them do drop energy and whatnot, but I believe it actually comes up when you kill X amount of an enemy type or an enemy on the particular zone. If you kill so many of them, then that 10th guy or whatever will drop energy. So it's not so much a random, hey, maybe that guy will drop energy. It's more like a, well, if you didn't kill a bunch in this level, you're not going to get energy, so why bother? Yeah, last minute getting hit. So I saved it here just in case, because I recall this area being right before the wonderful level, and no, this isn't it. Nothing interesting to talk about here. These enemy types, I think this is actually kind of what gave me the idea that I get killed into a wall. What gave me the idea that the enemies, like the amount of enemies you kill is what gives you the energy and not just some kind of random number. But and these enemies, if they came from the front, they wouldn't be a problem at all. In fact, they would be welcome because they would be pretty easy to kill and maybe mop up as far as getting some items goes. But from the back, when you're shooting them behind you, anything that they drop is just gonna get scrolled off the back of the screen. So, except for that sort of time right there. Ah, yes, here we go. So if you don't have maybe 2 or 3 speed ups, you're gonna get hit every single time you go through. Not that one there. I mean, you'd have to perfectly time it, and when you're fighting enemies, that's really hard to do. So it's not so much that not so much a fair zone at all. And now we end up back where we just were a second ago. So essentially, like, these last 3 or 4 zones really want you to go back into that zone section 27 to hit the wonderful speeder death trap. And there's just a chance that you're gonna end up hitting it repeatedly if you don't pay attention to exactly which teleporter you go into at the end of the level. And I think I accidentally took the same one twice, which is why I end up in here again, and I kind of just, I hate myself for it at this moment in time, so we get killed. So, back to section 25. Like I said, you go into section 28 here. I believe if you go up here, it'll take you to the next section. Section 29 is essentially the goal. Of course, when you're a kid, or when you're playing this for, you know, an hour or so, you kind of tend to forget exactly which path you take. Which is, doesn't really pay off when you have some bad memory issues, short term. Like, well, I don't know. Did I take the top one? I think I took the top one. Let's take the bottom one. No. Back to speed death trap. So, I actually, like I said, played this for about an hour and a half before I actually started recording. So, by that time, I got into the point where I'm like, was this the right path? Did I take it this time? And sure enough, the upper path from 28 leads you towards the goal. More of these weird things, which are really not so much roadblocks, as long as you know what kind of movement you need to make. You can actually dodge all the walls pretty easily. Of course, not always. I'm not always entirely confident with my maneuverability, but they're not too difficult. And for fighting these things, I don't know if I mentioned in the first video, it definitely pays off to actually have the 3-way here, because when you are able to kind of sit in the below or above, or still hit it without having to be right in front of it, they decided that you shouldn't have a clear shot to it, and that block appears a lot from this point on. So you have to kind of roll in, attack, and then roll out, and those shots can really screw that up. Also, I apologize if you hear any cat scratching in the background, because I decided to record and shut the door, which means the cats immediately try to get inside, and they hate not being able to get inside. In my room, anyway. Animals. Alright, so you noticed that I beat the stage, and instead of going forward, was shoved back to section 20, which is where we started this video at. Yes, the game loves to start kicking you backwards, and making you redo the sections that you've already done just to advance. So I am, at this point, I'm like, what the hell, which way did I go again? And you have to figure out which of the paths actually takes you back. And that's kind of the problem with the game overall, is that it's just a nightmare to navigate. If you don't remember exactly where all those little red zones were, or the red portals were when you came to here the first time, you can actually end up doing the entire section over again. And I've had it happen before where I ended up going down and getting killed by the wonderful speed trap of section 27 a couple times. And I thought it was this one here, and I'm like, what's going on? Why is it not changing over? That's, well, I'll show that off as well later on, because that's another wonderful thing here in Section Z. So yeah, I do have some goals to record some more Dwarf Fortress this week. Hey, look, there's the portal we needed. I do have some other Final Fantasy videos also to commentate for, and I'll probably get around to that maybe today. We will see. But here we go on to actual advancement in the game, and you'll see Section 30 is... nothing really changes from what I've seen up to... I think 39 or 40 was as far as I've gotten so far. There's no real difference. There's no real difference. I mean, there's a few enemy types and some layouts and that kind of thing, but nothing huge as far as things that are going to come out and you know, throw things for a loop. I think there's maybe one or two other real fast areas, but even they don't have so many, they don't have nearly the booby traps like that 27 does, and you'll pretty much be able to clear through them pretty easily. But yeah, I do have a few other videos that I want to commentate on. I do want to get back to recording the Dwarf Fortress. I'm currently kind of using 2 sets of headphones to record because thankfully, or not thankfully, unfortunately, one of the animals in the house decided that they would break my headphones, the headpiece for it. So the mic still works, I've just had to use other set of headphones. No big deal, although it is rather uncomfortable, but regardless. Boss, this guy is exactly the same as the first time I fought him. The only difference is like the stage setup, and that means blocks. Small obstacles get in the way. Except with the stationary boss enemy battles, these aren't nearly as difficult to deal with here. Because you're moving, the boss is moving, the shot patterns, I mean, you can still pretty much avoid them without running into the blocks. Not a big deal. In fact, this guy is still kind of a joke. Yawn. Very anticlimactic boss. I didn't think about it until then to start shooting around, because maybe there was a, you know, a hidden passage somewhere in this level that they might have snuck in there, but I didn't find any. And usually when you have these straight pipes like this, it's usually a passage to either a boss or one of those ships like that. Not always, mind you, but it generally seems to be you end up with one of those boss guys. And you'll notice that this particular stage isn't nearly as fast as the previous one, so these little booby traps are pretty easily dodged, actually, especially if you have some speed up. So far we're advancing along just well. I kind of was tempted at some point to go back and like actually record every single path, you know, and like make a save state before each portal, and then just go, oh hey look, this is this direction, this one goes this way, but I didn't want to make like a comprehensive playthrough. I kind of just wanted to show off the game and see if I couldn't complete it without having to really kind of abuse things like save states. Like I said, I used a couple, but I didn't use it to the point where it made the game trivial. Yeah, so those little, the crash ball or whatever it's called, actually did a fair amount of damage. Unfortunately, this time around it didn't do as much as it did last time, and I couldn't just straight up kill him. Of course, I left this in because I killed the thing with my last missile shot, and then ran out of energy and died. Also, I was a little bit of yeah, fancy graphical wipe there. That I was a little bit off on my mention of if you run out of energy, you don't actually go all the way back to like stage 0. You go back to the last checkpoint. I think 20 is the checkpoint for this particular like half of the game or whatnot. So it's not terribly bad, but it's still really obnoxious to kind of get thrown backwards a bit. So I left the return to the boss in. I think I make a save point right there because, yes, we went back to stage 20. Oh boy. So the game, again, makes you kind of regress backwards to progress forward. And the problem is the game is real bad about telling you any of this. It's, I believe I show it off later, maybe, that the other passage just goes to another section in 20. So at this point, you're just used to going backwards a lot, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. You would think, oh, maybe we go to a new checkpoint now, and there'll be a new set of floors, kind of like, you know, rooms kind of like this, and it'll just do the same thing over again. But no, it actually just goes and throws you back into these areas. Just very weird design ideas. This time around, however, the passage on the bottom actually works. Aha, and we advance forward to 35. And I believe this one, I believe I make a save state here because there is actually a very dickish secret passage in this level. Don't think I show it off just yet, but we will get to it, and it is again one of those things that just makes me go, well, why did somebody do this? Come here, butthead. Alright. So we kind of advance onwards. I believe this room in particular is actually... Is it this one? Yes. These things are particularly nasty if you don't have any sort of damage dealing capabilities. The laser, not the regular laser, the like wave laser is actually the best you can have for this particular area because it'll take care of those things in 1 or 2 shots. The spread beam isn't quite as useful here, and these things just get left all throughout the stage, and that's usually what becomes the big problem, is that you get a bunch of those and you have to deal with them at the same time. Alright, cat. Yeah. That happens. So yes, we'll go back a little bit, and 35 again, and I believe I'll actually show off the warp zone here after I get ruthlessly murdered. I do have kind of a bad habit of hitting the A and B at the same time to kind of bring that thing back up now and then, but that's because it's really easy when you're swapping back and forth between, oh, man, am I bad. I think this was just getting late, and I was just doing really terrible, because I again, been playing this for like 2 hours at this point, and all the passageways screwing with me was taking its toll. So there was a secret passage underneath there, and I was like, oh hey, cool, 2 warp zones? Sweet. The warp zones actually take you backwards. Both of them. Which is kind of frustrating. Yes, this one actually takes you back to the death zone, which is great. Thank you, game, for hiding a secret passage that leads you to your death repeatedly. Ugh. So eventually we get past this stuff. These guys aren't terrible, I'm just sometimes bad at playing. They can actually be pretty easy to take care of if you focus on getting like the lower half before you get the upper half. Or vice versa, depending on which path you take to get there, but yeah, I'm getting close to the end here, and well, this 36th zone. Not a big fan of the 36th zone, and I think that's because it's because I got to this point and just didn't have that wave laser. It definitely helps out a lot better than what I had. So next time, folks. Next time.